Thank you, Sefi and Amal, for a fantastic introduction to the second panel today. Let me introduce the concept of our second panel, but also say that really the aim of today is to continue the discussion as we go along. So hopefully we'll have time for questions, debate, and we want our panel to be challenged. But we want, first of all, to give them an opportunity to disagree with each other. I think that's important. Peter mentioned his experience as a German. I was brought up in Northern Ireland, and one thing I'd say is that right up to the peace deal in 1998, no one was optimistic. Optimism wasn't necessary, and in fact, we're still pretty grumpy about everything and miserable now. So that's not a prerequisite here. What we're dealing with is realpolitik, strategic realities, and that really is the focus of our second panel on answering Israel's security needs. We're going to pick up, if you like, where we left off, and the first speaker today on our panel is the person who asked the last question in the previous session, and that is Dr. Ron Pondak, who's the director of the Perez Center for Peace, and as he already alluded to, was a member of the Israeli negotiating team during the Oslo negotiations. Ron, if you take it away.
Thank you very much. I just first of all would like again to thank the Atkin family for putting it together. Beyond being the director of the Perez Center for Peace, which is the biggest Israeli or probably any peace organization in the Middle East, we have 40 people and dozens of activities. I'm also the co-chair of the Israeli-Palestinian Peace NGO Forum, which is a forum consisting of over 100 organizations, NGOs, trying to foster peace. This kind of activity activity of your fellows is definitely one within this context, and I really would like to emphasize the importance of being able to bring Israeli and Palestinian, Israeli and Jordanian, Israeli hopefully, and Syrians and Lebanese into such an environment detached from our problems and fostering what we believe eventually will happen, which is peace. And this will lead me to my short presentation. Nevertheless, we speak about peace, but today I think it's the 8th of October. In 73, 8th of October is the second or third day of the war between Israel and Egypt, Israel and Syria. And we must understand that when we speak about peace, within the background we have also the wars since 1948. And this brings me to my first conclusion. And the first conclusion is that any audience who is not Jewish Israeli should understand that we, Jews in Israel, are a paranoid society. We are a paranoid society both nationally as well as individually, meaning almost every Israeli, Jewish Israeli, is sure that there is somewhere a conspiration, somewhere people are sitting and thinking how actually to get rid of Israel. And this is, whether you are a Jew with a background of Holocaust or whether you are a Jew coming from Ethiopia, the history is there. And the feeling that somebody is there to kill us is very, very deep inside, nationally. I'm speaking about, so to say, national DNA, if it exists. And then there is the private paranoia, which unfortunately is also starting to prevail also elsewhere, including in London. And this is the feeling of personal insecurity, which now is on a lesser extent, but obviously, as you all remember, since the Second Intifada 2000, and even before, the bombs, the Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, buses, etc., the feeling is again that we are being hunted on a daily basis. And this, in a way, reflects a lot of the Israeli perspective towards this issue of security. But we have here a former head of Mossad and two brigadier generals or whatever on the Israeli army, former, and they know more about security, so I will try to deal with it from a different angle. And I would say, regarding the future, that yes, nowadays, realistically speaking, I'm rather pessimistic. But realistically speaking, towards the future, I'm rather optimistic, meaning that I believe that eventually, I don't think it will happen during the time of Netanyahu, unfortunately, because of Netanyahu, but I believe that eventually we Israelis and Palestinians will be able to strike a deal, whether it will be enforced on us, whether we'll do it bilaterally, which I hope and I believe, as Sabri said earlier, we can do it, and the two constituencies, the majority of two constituencies are able to do it, and eventually there will be peace between us two sides. This peace will be, hopefully, the cornerstone of a whole different Israeli strategy towards its own security, meaning peace will bring our security. It's not that our security will bring peace. We need our force in order to stay alive and be able, actually, to reach peace, but eventually peace is the biggest asset for security for Israel, which I hope will lead also towards an agreement between us and Syria, because as I presume all of you who are aware of the previous dialogues between us and the Syrians, it's only a matter of a decision, mainly an Israeli decision, also a Syrian decision, but basically the agreement is on the shelf. What is needed is two bold leaders to sign an agreement, and in 2099, 2000, we were very, very close to an agreement, and unfortunately, our former Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, was not courageous enough to make the final leap in order to reach an agreement with Syria. An agreement with Syria will change dramatically the whole strategy of the Middle East. Our relations with Syria will, I believe, will lead, including an agreement between us and the Palestinians, mainly on the issue of Jerusalem, will also lead to a total change of our relations together versus the Iranian, meaning the Iranian threat will not be the same threat after a peace between, or a prevailing peace between Israel and Palestine, Israel and Syria. And this will fall within the wider scope of the Arab Peace Initiative, meaning bringing a full normal relations between us and the entire Arab world. And as you know, the entire Islamic world also endorsed the Arab Peace Initiative, which means that eventually we may have relations with the entire Muslim world. Better, worse, but by and large, not these cold relations that we have with few states, or these kind of relations which are always connected to what is happening on the ground, but a total different Israeli position strategically within our neighborhood and outside our neighborhood, which means actually that we'll have a different strategy between us and our neighbors. Now, this won't be a kind of a heaven on earth, because we'll still have some elements, I believe, which will not accept the mere existence of Israel. And I mainly refer to the most, Islamic, rigid or extreme groups, whether it is Hamas, whether it is Hezbollah, definitely the Islamic Jihad, and I believe other splinters, Qaeda, etc., which will continue to attack Israel and will continue to try and sabotage any real agreement between us and our neighbors. And for this, actually, what we'll need is very, very strong intelligence and security dialogue, relations and cooperation and collaboration between us and the Palestinians, us and our Arab neighbors, and us and also other countries which are relevant, obviously the West, etc., which are relevant to this equation. And